Guys, I've been having a lot of trouble with Zelensky.
The reshuffle of the
lately.
cabinet was said by the anti-nudges
Cater to
to be a
America.
change of soup, but not a
Plan
change
to make
of
a big
medicine.
show.
And just look at the credit for this leak. Very reliable.
As a last resort,
Ozawa released Hetan Hospital to Russia. Does Ozawa really want Hetan?
how is that possible?
Once the Hetan ceasefire is lifted,
Ukraine is about to hold new elections.
Lifted. It's not your turn, and I'm not Ozawa's
From this
turn.
perspective,
Today, Ozawa and Netanya, the lake is facing the same problem. As soon as the war stops, they will be liquidated.
and
Many friends may have questions about this. The Beard waged war to avoid personal judgment. Tuluga kill is accounted for and understood. Ozawa was obviously beaten. Why is it still being liquidated? In fact, strictly speaking, the Russian-Ukrainian conflict is
Ying
precisely what
instigated and
happened in
picked
the
it up.
United States. But this conflict, in fact, it started as early as 2014.
23rd of February 2014 to 24th of February 2022.
It was the Donbass War. Then came the Russo-Ukrainian War. Today, let's briefly sort it out. In 2014, under many years of operation,
A color
in the
revolution
United
broke
States
out
and
in the West.
Ukraine.
Time.
Assistant Minister of State for European and Eurasian
The
Affairs.
current
debate on how Newland instigated the content of planning this political
no secret
crisis
anymore.
Subsequently, former
Subsequently,
Ukrainian President Yanukovych was overthrown. The reason is Yanukovych abandoned the association agreement with the European
free trade
Union,
agreements,
attempting to join the Russian-dominated Eurasian Economic
after suppressing
Community.
violence as a failure.
On February 21, 2014, Yanukovych fled to Moscow. That is, there is no government in Ukraine. In a vacuum, February 27. Tens of thousands of Russian troops quickly entered
While
Crimea.
controlling
the Crimean Supreme Council, completed the whole territory again. Redeployment of strategic locations. March 18th, please. And held a referendum to join the Russian Federation. Ukraine has accused Russia of this. Illegal annexation of Crimea. Occupation of Ukrainian
Russia
territory.
opposes
annexation. The reason for labeling them is when the Russian army entered Crimea and organized a local referendum, you don't have a government in Ukraine either.
It's still anarchy.
The local Russian population makes up the majority. The referendum on joining Russia does not violate
May 25,
international law.
2014.
Poroshenko wins. By this time, the Donbass War had begun. After the overthrow of the Yanukovych regime, the Ukrainian government's stance towards the West led to the outbreak of aggression against Russia in the Donbass region, and established the Donetsk People's Republic and the Luhansk People's Republic, April of the same year. Ukrainian government forces start an attack on the Udon militia. Ukrainian civil war. That's when the Donbass War officially began. Early stage of attack. Udon militia casualties. The Donbass region is full of people. French journalist Anne-Laure Bernal. The documentary film Donbass was filmed in 2015. It tells the story of the attack by the Ukrainian government. The lives of the people of Wudong. Interested friends can find it and take a look. Said, the culprit of suffering, the Ukrainian armed forces. It was the indiscriminate bombing of the Ukrainian army. That led to the deaths of tens of thousands of people in Udon. So far, the color revolution planned by the United States
Most of them have
and
been
the West successful. Ukraine will be completely turned to the West, a real threat to Russia. At this time, Putin still did not send
was not
troops.
accepted.
But Russia directed the pro-Russian Udon
Provided
militia
a large number of
and
weapons.
dispatched volunteers to assist in the operation. Then the tide of the war was turned.
Lone defeat.
Poroshenko agreed to sign a ceasefire agreement with the representatives
Preliminary
of Ukraine
conclusion
to the Donbass War.
Signed the Minsk Agreement.
Ukrainian government agrees to grant Luton 2 weeks of autonomy. But this is just a delay by the Ukrainian government. Then Poroshenko ordered attempt to continue the attack. January 2015. The two sides are fleeing to Debrechevo in Nisk Oblast. Fierce fighting broke out nearby. Nearly 50,000, the Ukrainian army was besieged. The parties signed the new Minsk Agreement. The besieged Ukrainian army was able to escape. However, after this battle, strike the axe and damage
a
the
large
vitality.
amount of equipment was
Government
abandoned.
army. No one thought. The combat power of the Ukrainian army. The United States and the West need time to arm Ukraine. They are just buying time for Ukraine. December 2022. In an interview with German magazine Die Zeit, Merkel admitted, the Minsk Agreement is buying time for Ukraine. They deceived Putin. As people can see, the United States, Germany, and France have helped Ukraine
combat
enhance
power
its
of the
military
Ukrainian
army
army
in
in
2022 compared to
The power is
2014.
very different.
Although the large-scale war ended, but the small-scale friction did not stop. At the same time, the Ukrainian side began to... A large number of defensive fortresses were built
Familiar
around
with
Donbass.
everyone.
Defensive offensives in cities such as Chasiv Yar. It's been built since then. Same Extreme nationalism and neo-Nazis. The Yasu camp, composed of members of the Communist Party, being integrated into the Ukrainian National Guard. April 2015. Poroshenko starts in Ukraine. Communization of the promotion area. Subsequently, legislation to ban all communist propaganda in May. Poroshenko signed another series of laws. Within 6 months, Clear all communist monuments. Yeah, it's related to communist themes. Rename of public places as of March 2016. 51493 streets in Ukraine. 987 cities and villages were renamed. Another 1,320 Lenin alleys, and 1,069 seats. Monuments to other communist figures were removed. Now, these behaviors are, of course, very understandable. Ukraine is a sovereign country. Since the meeting, the Congress passed a resolution to change the country's ideology. Other countries have no right to interfere. April 2019, in the second round of the Ukrainian presidential election. Tired of establishment politicians, Ukrainians who made promises, no more retaking Crimea against Poroshenko, fight with the Donbass, and pinned his hopes on the more down-to-earth Zelensky. The lower tile played in the film and television attacking oligarchs and corrupt politicians, leading Ukraine out of its economic difficulties. Finally, defeat Poroshenko. He became the 6th president of Ukraine, supreme commander of the armed forces of Ukraine. There were comments at the time that support for joining NATO and the European Union into the unknown Zelensky then said, negotiating territorial status issues. He plans to persuade end an active war. From 2019 to 2021, Biden will take office. During this time, even the driver has no experience. Ruling platform. Empty flaws are all exposed. In the 2020 Ukrainian local elections, Zelensky, including the capital Kiev, major cities in Ukraine, including, all lost. At the same time, Zelensky is also caught in the whirlpool of international public opinion. The recording of the phone call investigating the Bidens was involving Ukraine in a bipartisan battle in the United States. And key government officials for reform sparked domestic controversy, subsequent mass, and leave Ukraine's already fragile economy falling further into recession. By 2021, Zelensky and his team have yet to achieve any reform results. This made Zelensky. The Ukrainian people who had high hopes were very disappointed. As of March 2021, only 12% agreed with Zelensky. Policy in action. Therefore, in order to stabilize the regime, thereby diverting domestic conflict, it's working. The driver is just taking the blame. Because the problem in Ukraine is a geopolitical conflict. Pick an inexperienced political amateur. Take responsibility for war. Couldn't be more appropriate. You know, even though Ukraine became independent. But Ukrainian politics has never been independent. It has been continuously received the continued influence of Western power. Financial aid and other temptations and instructions. Ukraine embarks on a comprehensive westernization reform. Economically aggressive market-oriented policies forcibly copy the separation of powers in politics. Parliamentary democracy. How messy is it? I'll give you an example. Early independence. Ukraine has a Soviet-era constitution. The first constitution was not officially promulgated until 1996. Constitutional amendments were passed in 2004. The constitution promulgated in 1996 was overturned. As a result, the 2004 Constitution was restored in 2014. What is the root cause of this phenomenon? It is the pro-amount pie, and Western political forces take turns with the change of the Constitution. Ukraine's body is also changing frequently. 1996 was the presidential parliamentary system. In 2006, it was changed to a parliamentary presidential system. In 2010, it was restored to a parliamentary system. In 2014, it was changed to a parliamentary presidential system. The repetition of global change and the immaturity of the system of checks and balances. Chamber resistance between the president, mutual elbow and prime minister. At the same time, under the Western confusion, Ukraine uses shock therapy to reform its economy, achieve radical privatization, liberalization, and marketization. This has led to a large number of state-owned assets. The wealth of society is concentrated in the hands of a few people. And here's what's even more dangerous: an economic oligopoly. Also actively seeking political rights in the country. They may be wealthy. Strength directly participates in the election. Or support agents behind the scenes. Manipulation of presidential and parliamentary elections. Democracy. After gaining political rights, they will further stimulate social resources. Economic interests are concentrated in the oligopoly elite. So Ukraine is not so much a democracy. It's more like political marketization. Commercialization in the face of widowhood Ukraine democracy. Has topped the list for many consecutive countries with severe corruption. After the collapse of the Soviet Union. Push Ukraine fast. The external environment of rapid development is very good. The United States seeks to achieve its global strategic goal of resisting Russia and Europe. De-Russification and fragmentation strategies. Due to its unique geographical location, Ukraine became the United States the most important piece. And what about Russia? In order to achieve a counterweight to the United States in the West. But in the face of competition, the government of Ukraine's robbery did not work well. The left and right under the great power game. Instead, under the competition of competing forces, swing left and right, formed the anti-Western faction and the pro-Russian foreign policy. Kravchuk, Yushchenko, Poroshenko. The driver responsible belongs to the anti-Western faction against Russia. even confrontational attitudes, and Kuchma Yanukovych. It's about pragmatic diplomacy, attempting to strike a balance between Russia and the West, while valuing the West. We also place importance on developing relations along with Russia, pro-Western and pro-Russian, the rotation of political forces Ukraine in power. Also. But after the Zelian driver took quantitative change has occurred. First, domestic contradictions are difficult to monopoly economy under the influence of war cannot politics. Be reversed through reform. 20 Western Americans believe discriminatory ethnic policies leads to a tendency towards regional segregation. To meet the conditions for a conflict between Russia and Ukraine, Wudong residents law amendment. The following months, the two sides caused controversial laws are constantly being implemented. Expand its scope of application. And the responsible driver. It is impossible to reconcile the contradictions between the parties. Higher and higher. The Ukrainian side believes that, of course, he is not so in Russia's interests. This is the new Minsk agreement, the basis for achieving, but it also always hinders either side fully implement his roots. Perhaps its only function is, as Merkel said, it is to buy time for the United States and the West to arm Ukraine. In early 2020, Zelian drivers began to officially call for amendments to the Minsk agreement. Specifically, the Ukrainian government is required to control of the border. Obviously, this goes against the content of the Minsk agreement. Russia refuses to make any concessions. Then the Ukrainian government forces began redeployment around Donbass. Artillery violations of the ceasefire agreement. It's happening. The support is also getting bigger. This leads to getting stronger. February 22, 2022. With Donna, the Russian People's Republic declared Ukrainian troops crossed the ceasefire line. The Minsk agreement is officially annulled. The result was reached after more than 3 years of conflict. The current situation, it seems to have become the key to ending this conflict. Only option. Okay, that's it for this episode. We are witnessing a great change unseen in 100 years. Thank you, brothers, for your praise and support. See you next time.